Hey guys, this is Heather from healthyveganrecipes.net, and today I'm going to show you something that I make pretty much every day for Phil and I. A lot of you have been asking me what I eat on a regular basis during the day, and I usually show you dinner, and some of those dinners I actually make for lunch. And I've also shown you breakfast, which is often oats or another grain with some seeds and maybe some fruit. But one thing I haven't shown you is a green smoothie. Now, pretty much all nutrition experts and health experts agree that getting more greens into your diet is a good thing. So we pretty much all do with more greens, and an easy way to get them into your diet is by putting them into a smoothie. And what you can do here is put them in with fruit. Now, if any of you are concerned about food combining, greens combine well with anything, including fruit. And most people look at fruit as being kept on its own when they're thinking about strict food combining, but you can add greens and it's still super easy to digest. So, what I will show you is the technique of making a green smoothie, because there are a lot of recipes out there that you know, put different fruits together and stuff like that. And I think that's great to experiment with different fruits and see what you like. But to be honest, I pretty much just throw in some fruits in the blender, some greens, and let it go. I don't worry too much about getting different combinations and making cool flavors and stuff, because Phil and I include spirulina in our green smoothies, and if you've ever tried spirulina, it's a pretty intense flavor. It pretty much takes over any fruit that you put in there anyway, so I figure, why bother putting something cool in that I'm not going to taste anyway? Alright, so the thing you want to do to start, and it took us a few times to get the hang of this, because we don't have a Vitamix, which a lot of people that make green smoothies use, and a Vitamix is awesome because it breaks down the fibers in the plants much more so than a regular blender like this. But Vitamixes cost about 400 bucks. So if you're just getting started, you want to see if you like this technique of eating greens, just go for a normal blender. They're like 30 bucks, and you can start and see if you like it. And then if you really want to get into it, you might want to get a Vitamix. But anyway, start with this, see how it goes. So I'm going to start by adding some water. And you want to use filtered water. Most city drinking water has chlorine, and even bottled water basically comes from tap water anyway. So filter your water to get rid of the chlorine. And then to the water, the first thing you want to add is the fruit, because that'll be the base for adding your greens and whatever other stuff you want to add in there. If you do the greens first, it doesn't go so well. Alright, so to the water I've added banana and an apple. And this is going to be a smoothie for Phil and I just use one apple, one banana, but you can use more fruit at the beginning to make it sweeter, and then as you get used to green smoothies, you can reduce the amount of fruit. Now, I always question my decision to buy bananas since I live in Canada, and especially when it's winter, but the thing about smoothies is you need something kind of gooey to stick things together. I've tried making smoothies without banana, and what happens is the water and the fiber separate, so you need something to kind of bring it together. Bananas work, avocados work, but they're also not native to Canada. And the other thing you could try is maybe like a coconut milk or a nut milk or something like that. Coconuts, of course, also not native to Canada, but like a cashew milk or an almond milk or something like that. So you can play around with it and see what works for you, but I say, alright, one banana a day, that's not so bad. So give this a blend. The greens I use in the winter and even in the summer, but in the winter they're really easy to grow yourself, are sprouts. And so Phil is in charge of the sprouting. So we've got some clover in here. I'm going to grab a big handful. I like lots of sprouts. And these ones are alfalfa. So you can see he's got two different sprouting methods. This is a sprouter that has a thing inside with drainage, or you can just use a mason jar. You just have to make sure that it gets drained properly. And sprouts, these types anyway, alfalfa and clover, have very little flavor. We have another type that's a brassica blend, and that's a little bit more intense. So with these blander ones, I throw a lot in, but if you have something that's more harsh, you might want to go for less. You can also throw in things like lettuce or spinach, but they can get pretty expensive in the winter. It's great in the summer if you grow your own. And then to this, I'm going to add a spoonful of spirulina powder. That's going to make it super green. And then I use a hemp protein powder. We don't need to add a protein powder, but we just like to have a little bit extra to our diet. And then I happen to have right now some aloe vera juice, which I think is pretty cool. It helps cleanse and support all of your body's functions. So I'm just going to dump a bunch of that in there. And then the last thing I'm going to add is some lemon juice. And you can use fresh lemon if you like. The reason I'm adding this is to counter the flavor of the spirulina. If you don't have spirulina in there, you probably don't need lemon juice. But I've found through trial and error that without the lemon juice, I just can't handle the spirulina taste. So I put the lid back on, give this a blend. Phil always likes me to warn him when I make loud blender noise. So it'll mix up pretty quickly, but if you leave it a little bit longer on high, it'll break up if there are any chunkier kinds of things in here. Parsley is one that I like to add quite often, and it doesn't break up too easily. Cucumber is another great one to add in here, celery, anything light, green, juicy is a great addition. And then all you gotta do is drink it. And when you're first making them, you might want to take a taste before, I don't like any of it to get away, before pouring it out. If you need to add something, make it sweeter, whatever. But I've got things pretty much down now, so I know exactly how much of everything I like. And what I added was 1 soup spoonful. It's not quite a tablespoon. It's like 2 tablespoons of lemon juice for 1 spirulina spoonful, and that's for 2 people. So enjoy your green smoothie and experiment with all different kinds of things to put in there. I'll have the recipe posted at healthyveganrecipes.net. And yeah, this is one of the best parts of my day. It makes me feel so energized. If you want some other tips about increasing your energy, you can head over to healthyeatingstartshere.com/success, where I've set up some lessons for you guys. You can learn about energy and a whole bunch of other nutrition topics.